This morning, hundreds of thousands of Australians participated in events right around the country and indeed around the world to commemorate Anzac Day. Let's bring in someone who knows more about this than most, who served our country in uniform and is now serving in the federal parliament. Andrew Hastie, the Assistant Minister for Defence, federal member for Canning, but also for a decade in the Australian Army as an officer in the Special Air Service Regiment, who joins me now from Mandurah in WA. Andrew Hastie, it's lovely to have your company anytime, but particularly today on Anzac Day, veteran and now Minister in the Defence portfolio. Give us your reflections of Anzac Day and how did you commemorate it?
I've done 5 services in the last 24 hours, but today we started on the banks of the Murray River in historic Pinjarra, right in the heart of my electorate, and we met around a Celtic rugged cross, a couple of thousand people, and remembered the fallen. We remembered those who've given their lives for our country, and it was a wonderful reminder after almost 3 years without Anzac Day in WA, how much people love Anzac Day and want to pay their respects. So it was really encouraging to see so many people voting with their feet this morning and making the effort to get out of bed and remember those who've paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country.
The Defence Minister, your boss, Peter Dutton, had this warning today about Anzac Day and being prepared for war.
The only way that you can preserve peace is to prepare for war and to be strong as a country, not to cower, not to be on bended knee and be weak.
That's the unvarnished truth. I don't think we hear it enough. Do you think voters appreciate the security risks we face here in our region, but I think right around the world? And do you think we appreciate what's at stake come the 21st of May, given the increasing risk we're seeing in polling, Andrew Hastie, of a hung parliament?
Look, I think people are starting to realise that we are in a far different world to what we were 5 years ago. The events in Ukraine, Putin's ugly war in Ukraine, the No Limits partnership between President Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin is a reminder that the freedoms and the peace that we've enjoyed for the last 80 years cannot be taken for granted, and we have a lot of work to do. Minister Dutton today was talking about preparations, and what he was essentially saying is that if we're going to have an effective deterrent strategy, we need to demonstrate that we have hard power, that we have military capabilities to deter an adversary. One of our defence pillars, or one of the pillars of our defence strategy, is deterrence, to hold an adversary at risk. In order to do that, you need hard power, you need submarines, you need cyber capabilities, you need air power, you need hypersonic missiles, and these are the things that we are investing in as a government, and that's why we've committed $270 billion over the next decade to make sure that any adversary who comes our way will think twice before they take us on, and that's what Minister Dutton means when he says we need to be prepared for war.
There's real concerns, though, about Labor and their policies. I mean, they've opposed boat turnbacks in the past. Now they say they're for them. They once said they supported temporary protection visas. Now they reject them. And the Defence Shadow, once Defence Shadow Richard Marles, when he was the Shadow in 2019, he delivered a speech in Beijing that basically said, it's okay for China to be on the march in the region. You were once banned by China from visiting, yet Richard Marles has gone there, not only gone there and told them what they wanted to hear, but also ran his speech by their embassy in Canberra. That's a worry.
It is a big worry. He has serious questions to answer, Peter. Richard Marles sent his speech to the Chinese ambassador, the same one who only a month later or two denied Senator James Patterson and I a visa to China. So he got the okay from the Chinese ambassador here in Canberra, a wolf warrior diplomat, who then denied us the ability to visit China. He also advocated for greater defence cooperation with China, and he also is quite okay with an increased Chinese presence in the region. So he has serious questions to answer. And Peter, for me, this is rather personal because back in August of 2019, I wrote an opinion piece which was criticised quite widely, in fact, for simply saying that we need to take President Xi at his word we can't ignore his rhetoric, and his rhetoric at the time was increasingly bellicose and aggressive. And as we've seen over the last few years, China is undertaking the biggest peacetime military build-up since the 1930s. And so I got rounded on for that. Richard Marles flew to Beijing, then came back and did an interview on the ABC where he said people in Beijing weren't happy with the comments I'd made, and that, you know, we can't have Liberal backbenchers running amok on these sorts of questions. So he's all over the place. He's potentially the Defence Minister in a Labor government, certainly the Deputy Prime Minister. So the Australian people, to bring it all back, on the 21st of May, have to make a decision, and these are some of the risks that they need to account for.
It doesn't surprise me now when we know this China, pro-China history of Richard Marles, that when someone like Kimberley Kitching spoke out on the issue of China, it caused her so much trouble internally. And her factional boss, Marles, from the right faction, apparently didn't support her. You were very close to Kimberley Kitching. Knowing what we know now about Richard Marles, this all sort of starts to add up, doesn't it?
Yeah, the more we get to know about his thinking on China, the more I realise how special Kimberley Kitching was and how much we will continue to miss her in the Parliament. She was tough, but she was very clear-eyed about the risks and the threat that is posed by an increasingly expansionist and revisionist China. And so I'm not confident at all that Richard Marles appreciates the threat. I'm concerned that he doesn't even know which side he's on when it comes to Chinese expansion into the Pacific region, notably the Solomon Islands. And so there are very, very serious questions that he needs to answer over the coming days.
I know Anzac Day is an important day for our country, but I know it's also personally significant to you and your family. So, Andrew Hastie, I very much appreciate your time.